Hey, welcome. So, this is going to be the very first part of what will probably turn out to be a 20 to 25 video series, which goes into from 0 to 100 how to build a decentralized application for MakerDAO derivatives. Um, and to give a little bit of a background about myself, I'm John Kornstrom, and I've been building decentralized applications on Ethereum for almost a year and a half now. And I've realized that there's a lot of cool financial applications which can be built, but have yet to be built, or there aren't great user interfaces for working with them. And after working with smart contracts for so long, I've really understood the ins and outs, the tricks you can use with different architectures to accomplish what you want. And the whole inspiration behind this, I was talking with a developer who works at MakerDAO, and he was telling me that they have this need for interest rate derivatives. And what that essentially means is we can actually go look at the MakerDAO Maker tools. It shows all the information about the price of Maker, the supply of DAI. It's almost over 100 million, which is pretty cool. The current collateralization ratio. And you've got a page here for stability fees. And we can look at all, and we can see that it started out at 0.5% for the longest time, and that meant that if you took out 100,000 DAI from a CDP, when you went to pay it back, you would have had to pay $500 with the MKR token to pull your collateral back and pay off the loan. That was the stability fee. And it was constant for a while, but as we've seen in the last 3 months, let's go to 6 months, it was at 2.5% for a while back on August 30th. And it's been going wild. It was down 0.5%. A month ago, or a month and a half ago, it was 1%. Then it went to 1.5%. Then it went to 3.5%. And imagine taking out a loan for $100,000, and you believe that you're just going to pay back $500. Well, a few months later, you pay back $3,500. That's $3,000 on a $100,000 loan. And so if you want to avoid that as someone taking out loans, what I want to build, and what I've been talking about with this developer at MakerDAO, is a system for buyers, or I should say borrowers of DAI, to be able to lock in a fixed rate for paying back the loan. And this can be over a 3-month time period, a 6-month time period, and it will be managed by a smart contract. And the idea is that, let's say the notional amount of this is like a $500 or $100,000, and you want to lock in that 0.5%, right, in the middle of January. You put up 500, and the smart contract is going to be created by this issuer who will provide the liquidity. He'll throw a ton of DAI into it. A buyer can come along and he'll post his 500, and then the creator of that contract, the seller, will actually put, if he wants to guarantee coverage up to 6 or 7% stability fee, he will put $6,000, 6,000 DAI up against that buyer's 500. And if the stability fee at the expiration date is 6.5%, if you took out that $100,000 loan, now you fixed that rate, and you will receive the 6,000. So effectively, you receive 6,500 at the end of it, and you can protect yourself that way. So this is going to be a derivatives platform, all managed through smart contracts to protect yourself from the changing stability fee. And this is actually something that's published on the Ethereum network. It's in a smart contract. It's a variable in it, so we can use other smart contracts. They can reference this stability fee rate and manage these forward rate agreements, as they're technically called. And so we're going to go through the smart contract design. We're going to go through the front end design of it. We're using Meteor as the platform for developing. Meteor is a fantastic application. Let me go meteor.com. The fastest way to build JavaScript apps. It's excellent. I've been using it for a lot of applications. There's a way to host it through Meteor hosting, so we're going to go into that. I like to use MongoDB on the back end. It may turn out that we don't even touch MongoDB as we work through this, but there's a chance we will, and we can have a free 500 megabyte MongoDB backend provided by MLab, and I can show how to hook that into the app. We're going to be using Semantic UI for the front end. It's a great front end library. And to build this application, we're going to be using WebStorm. It's a JavaScript IDE. Very, very nice. I've got it here. I've got a license for it, but if you want to just download it, they give you a free 30-day trial, so that's excellent. And yeah, we're just gonna build a derivatives platform. I will preface that actually launching one of these platforms in the U.S. would probably be under jurisdiction. I'm not even going to say probably. You're going to be under jurisdiction of the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, because they like to regulate derivatives and swaps. But we're building it all on the test net. This is going to be a video series to show how you do all of this. We're going to be starting out with smart contract design first and foremost, go into the front end and then some of the back end and deploying it. But we pretty much have everything, and I'll run through real quick the outline I have of everything that we'll be using through this and some of the things we'll be going through. It's going to look like an 8-part series right now. Each one of these parts could be broken down into 2 or 3 45-minute long episodes. So as we work through it, depending on the complexity of various parts, some will be longer, some will be shorter. I think I've covered just about everything in the overview here. Some of the languages used will be Solidity. That will be for React or Remix. I like to use this for programming the smart contracts and just writing them out. React, JavaScript, some HTML will come into the mix, and possibly MongoDB. That's not too complex. It's much simpler than you would think to work with MongoDB through Meteor. I've gone over through some of the required software and tools, but in the next episode, I will be setting those up and walking through all the steps. I want this to be a full, not hold your hand kind of thing, but at least show everything that I'm doing. So if I'm starting from scratch, you can start from scratch too with this kind of series tutorial. The first big programming thing that we'll dive into will be the smart contract design. We always want to start with the business requirements. This is, what does the end user need? What does the issuer or the administrator need? What kind of accessibility does he need? Some of the basic data structures like structs, mappings, how to increment the mappings, functions, modifiers, and we're going to go into states. This is more of a computer science topic where you have state transitions. Something can be in state A, and there's another state B, and maybe a state C. And if you're in A, you can go to B. If you're in B, you can go to C. But if you're in C, you can't go back to B. And that's how you can control some of the accessibility of, say you have a forward rate agreement that's a 3-month term. Once it has been executed or it's expired, you don't want to be able to allow the end user to withdraw more funds or execute it again in that sense. So this is something that a combination of modifiers and states can be put in place to protect or prevent against that kind of functionality or unwanted access. Then we're going to start with the Meteor, running through that, creating the application, installing important libraries like Web3, flow router, so you can do this through a single page application architecture. That's something that's very important, and that just makes the user experience easier too. You don't want some complex application with all these different pages. Just single page application, very easy to use. Scaffolding is an important part too. How do you structure all of the folders in a Meteor application to set up the front end and some of the back end, splitting server-side functionality with client-side functionality, building components within React. Then once we have that set up, we'll start by porting the smart contract into our Meteor application into JavaScript. This will involve the Web3 library, creating a smart contract form for interacting with it. That's going to be a huge complex piece, which we'll go into more in depth after, but we'll build a basic form to start out with and expand upon that. And then how do you manage interacting with the smart contract on the back end? How do you make a user interface allow you to click something through a smart contract and have MetaMask, which is what we'll be using for a lot of this on the Kovan testnet. Everything we're going to be doing is on Kovan, and I've got a nice account here with almost 300 Ethereum, another one with 43 Ethereum. So we can do some nice testing with this amount, and even open up a couple CDPs to take out DAI on the Kovan testnet as well. I already have about 6,000 DAI, but we may need more. You never know. We're going to go into working with smart contract components, or I should say building React JavaScript components to watch state variables within a smart contract, or to create buttons for interacting with the smart contract. Managing the component lifecycle is important, so if you leave the page or go to something else, it's not continuing to render a component, so that's something important that we'll look into. Selectively rendering things on the front-end interface through identity management, and that's part of the Web3 library. Depending on which account you're accessing, we're going to be checking that Ethereum address. So if you're on one Ethereum address, it'll load all of your forward rate agreements for that account. But if you're on a different one, it'll switch and load all of the other ones. And it can do this in real time. If I change this account, boom, then it'll load a different list. And that's a nice feature that we'll want to have in place. And MetaMask is great because even if you don't have an account hooked up or initialized through MetaMask, you can actually import accounts or connect a hardware wallet and manage your account through the MetaMask extension. So that just makes it that much easier to work with. And then the final thing will be state changes and reactive interfaces. So this will be a method where we're pulling the smart contract for various parts. Some will be every 30 seconds, some will be every 2 seconds. And this allows the interface to have more of a dynamic feel, like you're looking at the smart contract, and that's a nice user experience feeling. From there, we're going to get into user interactions and administrative access. So the end user interface, which will be reactive, this is kind of going to spill over from the previous section. We're going to get into the admin access. So because we're not just building it for the end users, we're building it for the administrators or the issuers of these contracts as well. So how do we build something that allows them, let's say it's a one smart contract for stability fees between 3 up to 8%, but then they want to have one from 5 up to 12, and maybe that 3 to 8 they only charge in the smart contract 0.5% as a premium, right? That's the fee for enabling someone to lock in that fixed rate. But the 5 to 12% range, maybe they take 1%, maybe they charge twice as much for taking on more risk. And then the end user can say, well, I don't know if I want to pay 1%, but I'll get this much coverage for 0.5% fee, or for the notional amount, something in that realm. And then finally, the big kabang is where we will deploy the application, and I do it through Meteor Galaxy. It's a great system for hosting apps, setting up SSL certificates and things of that nature. But we might get into the Meteor free hosting. I probably will just show, because this is more of like a production or enterprise kind of tutorial. I think we'll stick and focus on Meteor Galaxy hosting, along with just buying a domain off of GoDaddy and setting up the forward addressing, port forwarding, whatever we need to do for that. It's been a couple months, so I forget the exact process, but we'll hop onto that and set that up, and then we'll have it running right through there. So yeah, this is going to be a very exciting application to both design, build, and learn about how to build an app from scratch. So I hope you will enjoy.